Lisa challenged me on a couple of points. One has to do with continuous professional development, and then I've connected that to this crazy idea of how one might measure knowledge. Well, she started and offered, she said, hey, I bought some of these books. Anybody in the group want to read them? So I said, sure. So she sent this to me. It's called Society Web 3.0, How Technology is Reshaping Education, Work, and Society. It's quite an interesting book. I read it right away. And like when I read most things, I look for the one golden nugget idea. This one is what jumped out at me because it actually tracked with my idea, crazy idea, in the concept of continuing education. So, and then the reason it jumped out at me is 10 different jobs in a career. Well, I'm first year baby boom, so I'm sort of at the end of this career cycle, and I started counting on my hand, and I said, I actually have had 8, so I still have time to have the 2 more. That's not counting to be a faculty in University of Phoenix. I did not count that. And the book defines different as meaning really different. And I'll present myself as an experience in being really different because my undergraduate degree is civil engineering. So think earth dams and concrete design. I spent about 2 months on a first construction project out in the middle of the prairie in South Dakota, like 100 miles from anywhere, in the summer, and I decided that probably wasn't exactly what I wanted to do the rest of my life. So I did go back to school. I got a degree in digital electronic design as a master's degree, and people say, how do you connect that? I said, well, earth, silica, yeah, they're related. So, and so then my first real job as an engineer was designing electronic test instrumentation. And that got me exposed to Department of Defense, research and development and acquisition, and so I spent good chunk of most of my career doing that. And later in life, I decided that I had exposure in a multidiscipline kind of environment. And so my PhD actually is a multidiscipline degree called information technology. And it spans a number of different engineering disciplines. So I've made that transition, and I really have had 8 distinct, different industry, different technology kinds of jobs. So 2 to go. So think that. So what does it mean for us and the uniqueness that university, I think, provides, sort of some background. There is ElementK Tutorials, and I've sort of tried to introduce that in the classroom, a couple of classes, recent classes after I discovered this, make it available to students. It's available to faculty as well. And I didn't really know about it. I think Lisa pointed me sort of in that direction. So there really are over 200 business and technology available. And I don't know how we're using that, or even if you know that they exist. I certainly didn't until they were pointed out to me. So the more interesting one is the professional development link to certifications and exams, because I went through this actually myself almost a year ago. So for my business reasons, I own my own company, and an opportunity, it was necessary for someone in my company to be certified as a project management professional by the Project Management Institute, and there may be others in here, and I'm one. Now, I didn't know about this, so I actually went out and I spent $2,400 for a 3-day kind of overview of these 9 topics. And I'm not going to read them to you, and I know you might not see them. Note that they exist. And I could have done that online. Those 9 topics track to the Program Management Institute's PM knowledge areas, 1-to-1. So that tutorial would have been it won't get you to certification. You cannot do that tutorial, pass the exam. So because there are other requirements. You do need to have a legitimate experience, and then you really do need to read this book to properly prepare. The other interesting about that experience, which tracks to the university, the exam itself is very scenario use case driven. So if you don't have the experience, it's not adequate to have the knowledge. When we talk about personal knowledge as it relates to, let's say, project team formation, one of my jobs, project manager, Department of Defense, a $3 billion program. So the question is what team is necessary to be successful, and how do you put the team together? So I use the Department of Defense as an example because they have a significant research program, have been ongoing for years, and how one selects members of a team to be part of a complex project acquisition. So in that context, traditionally it's been know what, know how, and how does one discover what that is. If we talk about Web 3.0, which is what this book's about, now we've added something else called know who, because it's about social networking. Really, Web 3.0 is about social networking. So taking the know what, know how, know who. And so how do we do, what can we apply that to our student environment? So that's kind of the question. So if you look at some of the technologies, and there's folks in here who probably appreciate this, one of the scenarios I use in my information technology class, I talk about e-commerce and web experience. And one of my interest areas is system performance modeling. So system can be lots of things, but if you look at the e-commerce website, typically really good e-commerce websites, I show good examples and bad examples in the classroom, is good ones, the amount of resources that are available, meaning the servers and the response and the connection to the internet, are well managed, and there's a predictive algorithms that have been developed that represent, gee, you're most likely to buy based on your behavior of how you're looking at a website. So I'm going to take resources away from somebody that I'm predicting that looks like they're just really browsing, because I want to increase your experience. I want to make it faster. And so that actually goes on. That's a real time. So predicting that you're actually going to purchase versus somebody just browsing. And so you've experienced that. You probably slow down. You're just browsing. You slow down, and then you say, oh, crap, I just dumped the web page, and if you're like me, and I'll go somewhere else. So can we take that in an assessment perspective? Try this again. So I said, well, let's try this crazy idea. So what if we had some kind of framework that we use those same kinds of tools and technologies, because they exist. The other interesting thing I found about University of Phoenix, the uniqueness is they have all this data. Really have all the data. We do everything online. Homework's online, discussion groups online, everything's online. So we got lots of data. Traditional university, University of Minnesota, that's not true. It's all pocketed per professor. So if we do that, we have course objectives, we have students, and so in the model it says we can have lots of input because it exists. We have reports, we have papers, we're talking about faculty here in research. We have student grades, we're putting grades in the system. We have the social network piece. We actually have the discussion groups, individual and team. So we have an incredible amount of information. So we need some fuzzy evaluation kind of techniques. And in the model, it says, well, we could apply that. Then we have this knowledge algorithm that says, OK, I've developed the weighting criteria and the fuzzy logic that says I can actually really measure. So that's kind of the concept. There is an algorithm. I have an outline, and we don't need to talk about it. Sort of notional, needs work. I won't claim that it doesn't. And I want to make sure that we get to the end here. So what's the academic challenge? We really do need to think about what the Web 3.0 means. And we need to recognize, in the earlier discussions really have been about, we have many different learning styles. Now, we didn't pre-coordinate this, but it was interesting. The previous discussion by Nancy sort of addressed that. But we have many different learning styles. And we need to add to the idea of know who in some emphasis in collaboration, and the team process that we use in the classroom, I think, are appropriate to that. So the question is, can we actually come up with some measure of knowledge gained over a program of instruction, a degree program, or over an individual course? it would be useful to not just a student understanding in a life continuing learning, how many jobs are you going to have and what knowledge you need for the job. And it also would provide someone, myself, probably less experienced faculty from an education point of view, feedback that says I'm actually moving forward in providing some knowledge to the classroom. Now, data-wise, it might be difficult at the student level to do that, but in a macro sense, this program of instruction or this course provides some level of knowledge gain that's appropriate to the marketplace to help someone move forward in job. So anyway, that's the discussion. I have included a bibliography because it is a crazy, crazy idea. So questions, comments. And you don't need to do it here today, but I would like feedback if this concept makes some sense.